Okay, good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. Such a huge profile. I think we'll dive straight into the conversations for today. Today, we'll be talking about budgeting, the power of budgeting and saving, right? But I would really love to tweak that title a little and say that budgeting saves lives. Why do I say budgeting saves life? Let me juggle our memories a little. You remember that how many of us here were born, say, in the 90s? I'm not talking 1970s, so those people are rude. I'm talking maybe 1990s, 1980s. It was always something to talk about, where you saw civil servants build houses with all their plenty children in the university and all of those things. It seemed like they were doing extraordinary things, right? They were getting married in their 20s, they were building houses in their 30s. Heck, we had people leading this country at age 34. But it's almost seeming like in this current time and in this current climate, all of these things have eluded us. It's not exactly eluding us. It is because we have majority of us, right? We have come to a point where we have embraced a new ideology. Just like it doesn't seem like what I'm saying is very. So it doesn't look like what I'm saying is abstract. Can we indicate by a show of hands? How many of us remember this time frame I'm talking about? Show of hands. Okay, thank you. So yes, at that time it seemed like it was too much, right? It seemed very big, but now so many of us have approached 30 and some of us have gone beyond 30, and it looks like these things are very insurmountable. We cannot exactly we cannot do beyond what our parents had done. And so one of the reasons why that is because we have embraced this new ideology that we work so hard so that we can ball, or you eat everything that you make. And that's one of the secret powers that people in the old had. They had this extreme, they were very frugal, but even in their frugality, there was a plan for every naira that they earned. And so that will bring me first and foremost to talk about budgeting. I said budgeting and savings saves lives. What is budgeting? Budgeting is like creating a roadmap for your money. It is telling your money where your money would go. There is an anonymous saying that the person who cannot tell where their last penny, or in this case, kobo went, cannot tell where their next naira would come from. It is so because if you did not send your money on an errand, you will not be expecting a report on what that money had done. And so what budgeting serves to do is to help us send our monies on errands, right? It's basically telling your money where to go, and it literally saves lives, because when you have a proper budget, it makes it easy for you to recall where you have spent your money. It tells you what your priorities are. Some people finish spending money and they go into depression because they don't even know how they spent the money. If I asked a couple of us, this is the end of February, we'll soon be going into the month of March, and then we'll be done with the first quarter. What have you done with your money? What are the fruits or the rewards you are looking to reap from the money you have earned from January until this time? Very few of us can actually point to one or two things that we have done with that money. Okay, so, and there's also this confusion or this negative thoughts or quotes that people are beginning to say, that the money is never enough, the economy is too stringent, we cannot save money. But one thing I want you to go away with from today's session is the fact that irrespective of how tight and stringent the economy is. If you cannot save from your 10 naira earnings today, trust me, you will not be able to save from your 10 naira, from your 100,000 naira earnings tomorrow. Now, how do we do budgeting right? So there are some of us here that would have said, oh, I have been budgeting. It just doesn't work. Budgeting doesn't work because if I save today, tomorrow my savings will save me. Or if I create a budget, something just happens out of the blues and all the budget I created has just disappeared before my eyes. There is a way to do budgeting. There is an actual way to do budgeting. And if you do this budgeting right, you might make some mistakes, no doubt. However, despite these mistakes, you have the opportunity to rework the budget and keep reworking it until you get a perfect reading. Some people abstractly just make budgets without proper records on how to budget or what to budget for. Some of us are making budget off of a pay or off of a pay grade that we are not in. So you are probably in GSS 3, or you want to live like somebody that is in the university. You are probably an entry level staff or entry level employer, and you want to live like $10 or Dangote. It doesn't work like that. You cannot budget for monies that you have not received. How do I do budget? How do I budget right? The first thing is to understand all your certain incomes. Certain, that word certain is in a quote. It has to be, you have to be very certain that this income to a large extent will come in. It is not the one that you are hoping somebody will dash you. It is not the money that somebody you want to pray to come. It is not the money you are expecting in faith. It is the money that you are sure that you have worked for and it will come, that you budget with. When these monies that you are hoping for, the monies you are praying for comes, you also have a list of things that you really want to achieve, but you can't achieve immediately. You can pick something from that other list. But the budget you work with on a month-to-month basis, on a yearly basis, should be off of your certain income. So take, for instance, there are people who work multiple jobs and your salary comes at different times. If it doesn't come in the same circle, break them apart. Fix the certain income that comes at a certain point together. If you are the one that ends every week, you can plan and make your budget weekly. If you earn monthly, you can plan and make your budget monthly. If it is annually, you can plan and make your budget annually. But ensure that whatever you are budgeting with, or whatever figures you are using to make your budget, are budgets from certain income. Budgets from certain income. I want to re-emphasize that it has to be certain. It has to be something that you are certain will come. Yes, there's always this layer of probability. However, you must be certain to a large extent that money will come. So understand all of your certain incomes. Then group them. Do I get these earnings daily? Do I get this weekly? Do I get this monthly? That would enable you to make plans for daily, weekly, or monthly. When you have, first things first is understand all your certain incomes. Secondly is to group your income. Put them together so that you have a clear figure of what you are working with for your budget. The third thing is to identify all of your expenses. Identify all of your expenses, and this is going to be done through actual work. It's going to take you some time, but trust me, if you do this deliberately, it will save you a whole lot of time and depression that it takes, where you're wondering where all your money has gone to. How do you identify all your expenses? I would regularly tell people who I work with to ensure that you keep a stringent record of all expense that you make for 3 months. An example is, I left the house today and I took with me, let's say, 1,200. Of that 1,200, I spent 600 on transportation. I bought charger for 100 naira. I bought a cup of ice cream for 300 naira. Oh, somebody asked for 100 naira here, and I gave the person 100 naira. And when I get home, I have just 100 naira left. You document every single expenses that you have made. Do that consistently for 3 months. You would have a proper understanding of where all your monies have gone for 3 months, and it will enable you make proper choices and proper plans for all of your incomes that will be coming subsequently. Now, fourthly, divide your expenses into portions. Now, depending on the most convenient templates. Generally, I think there are two models. There is the 50-30-20 rule, and then there's the zero budgeting. 50-30-20. 50% is supposed to be spent on your needs. Those things that you cannot do without, they are your needs. You spend 50% of your earnings on your needs. Now, the things that you have identified that it's not like you don't need them, but you can do without them, they are called wants. Those ice cream that you need to go on ice cream dates and things like that, those are not exactly very important. They are wants. You have 2 functional weeks. You don't need a 3rd week. You are not a model. When you get to that point, you can buy as much weeks as you want. But if you have 2 functional weeks, you don't need a 3rd one, then a week is a want at that point in time. Then 20% is reserved for tithes and savings. Conventionally, they say 20% is for savings, but I say 20% is for tithes and savings. So you keep your 10% for your tithes, you keep your 10% for your savings. However, for those of us, or for some of us who are entry level, you should realize that this 50-30-20% might not work for you. And so you can do what we call the zero budgeting. You budget all of your funds, everything that comes, for to equal and relevant things. So because of the data you have from the former 3 months that you have saved, it allows you to be able to tell what are the most important things that you need to save for, and what are the things that you can do without. Budget everything down to the last 0 naira. So instead of just saying I will put 20% and keep it for my tithe and savings, you then say I will do 10% for my tithe. This is the exact amount that I'm going to pay in tithe. This is the exact amount I am going to pay in savings. This is the exact amount I am going to contribute towards my rent. This is the exact amount I am going to spend for my light bill. This is the exact amount I am going to spend to make my hair. This is the exact amount I am going to give back to family in the form of charity. 0%. You budget everything down to the last naira. And then you will do what? After you have done all of these things, you have set aside your monies, planned for the monies adequately. The next thing you do is to do what? You would review your budget monthly. That's why I said that don't fret if, for instance, you probably put a budget together and you overshot your budget here, you overshot your budget there. Discipline is actually required. If, for instance, you have a certain budget, say for your charity and family purpose, and you exhaust that amount that has been set aside. Say you set aside 15,000 naira for charity today, and you exhaust that 15,000 naira. What happens is that when next somebody else comes and reaches out to you, say, oh, I need money, you say, I don't have money. Really, you don't have money because all you have budgeted for that for charity, for both your family and any other charity cause you give out to, is 15,000 naira. You exhausted 15,000 naira on giving out to those category of people. You no longer have money to give out. You have to also be disciplined when it comes to budgeting, right? And then we will move on to savings. Now, there is a book that I love so much, The Richest Man in Babylon. You see that when you work for a while and you collect your pay, and the first thing you are thinking about is all those many bills that you have to pay. You pay the waste person, you pay the light person, you pay your rent, you buy a shoe, you pay your siblings, you pay your parents, all the money you dish out, all of those things, even the ice cream you bought to eat for yourself is not exactly for you. You have paid every other person but yourself. That's what one of the chapters in that book, The Richest Man in Babylon, addresses. It tells us that at that time when you are spending all of these monies, you are spending the monies, but you are not exactly doing anything for yourself. So you are paying every other person but yourself. You are paying every other person but yourself. And so what happens is, after a certain time frame, you realize that so much money has come to you, but nothing really that we did an exercise. I'll tell you to go to your bank app, right? Go and check your inflow versus outflow. I am almost very certain that if you look at your inflow from January to the end of February, you don't have up to 10% of whatever has come into your account kept anywhere in savings. You see, that 10% of all the monies that you have gotten into your account is supposed to be the money you are paying yourself. That money is meant to work for you. It is not money that you eat. It is not the money that you spend for immediate things. It's not the one that you save to be able to buy a shoe. No. This is the one that you save, right? For your future self. That is what you and your future self will rely on. But before you begin to save, you must first and foremost set up a financial goal. First and foremost, set up a financial goal. Is anybody, can you still hear me? Please let me know if you can hear me.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. So before you begin to save, first thing you need to worry about, the first thing you need to do is set up a financial goal. What is your goal for your finance? Are you saving because what's the whole essence of your finance? What do you want to achieve with your finance? Do you want to just live baller's lifestyle now? So you save for short-term things like buying a shoe, buying a house, buying a wig, right? Or you really want to save for long-term purposes, things like retirement, right? There are people who have a set time frame for when they want to retire from active work. Doesn't mean they won't work again. It's just that they want to work on their own terms. And for some of these people, the age is maybe 40 to 50. And if you are under 20, begin to save. And this, like I said earlier, it is not the savings you make to be able to buy a shoe. Neither is it the savings you make to be able to buy a wig. It is the savings that you are sending into your future. So you are either saving in a high yield savings account like Super Capital app, with the Super Capital app, or you are investing because you are going to get returns on investment where you will also keep saving, and then you plan to live off of that, the interest of your investment right now. And the beauty of saving is the fact that it compounds. Everybody loves what do you call him? Warren Buffett. Everybody loves him, but very few people realize that he did not just become the Warren Buffett that we all know today. He started saving from when he was age 10. So it compounds. If you begin to save now, if you save 1,000 today and you save another 1,000 in the month of March, you will no longer have just 2,000. You will get 2,000 and an interest, which is the interest for the interest that is accrued to that particular 1,000 that you kept, specifically if you kept it in a high yield savings account like the Super Capital app. It helps to protect your money from inflation. Saving is not the one that tomorrow, when you have exhausted the money you promised your family and friends, you will now go to that money and say, I have money somewhere, and so you want to take it. No. And that's one of the good things about the Super Capital app. It is the fact that when you lock the money there, it is locked for 12 months, a minimum of 12 months. So you cannot exactly quickly just go and break it and collect it and eat it again. Okay, so when you are saving, you are not just arbitrarily putting money whenever I have it. Consistency is also a factor of saving. When you save, consistency, you have to be very consistent when you are saving. You have to, one of the ways to build consistency in saving is to automate your savings. So remember, I talked about aggregating all of your earnings. If, for instance, you aggregate all of your earnings, you then make it a point of duty that you maybe you receive your earnings, your salary, your payment for service in a certain account, and you put a bank instruction on that account that for every of this amount that comes into my account, immediately debits such this percent of the amount and let it go to my super capital wallet. Instantly, you don't have to worry about whether you miss a savings. You don't have to worry about whether you miss a saving target. So if you automate your savings, it makes savings easy for you. And don't get into the habit of saving simply because it is trendy now. As much as it is good to take advantage of the fact that saving and the whole culture of saving is a bit trendy, like I said, when you want to save, you think about what are your financial goals? What are the things you hope to achieve with your finance? Do you want to work to a certain amount of time and then retire to your finance that you have saved while you were in active work, or you just want to save so that you can buy a house and then you continue to ball? But whatever your financial goals are, the thing is, ensure that you don't save haphazardly. You don't save, oh, if I remember today I save, if I remember tomorrow I will not save, and then you come and say, Adaku said that if I save I will get this plenty interest. You have to save consistently for these things to apply to you. I've spoken about saving with high yield savings platform, right? Saving with high yield savings platform protects your funds from inflation. So you keep your money in a traditional bank, they will collect charges for SMS, they'll collect charges for card, they'll collect all the charges, and at the end of the day, you lose more of the money that you have kept there. But when you put them in high yield savings account, what happens is that you accrue, you get an interest. The platform also gives you an interest for keeping your money with them. So it's more or less like sending your money to work for you. Remember when I started, I said budgeting is like creating a roadmap for your money. You send your money on an errand. You have created a road that you will use to send the money on an errand. This is you now making sure that this money is working for you. You don't just stash the money and keep it there for no reason. You keep it because this is what I am looking forward to. And what are some of the primary forms of savings that every young person should have? What are some of the primary forms of savings that every young person should have? Now, one of the problems why people struggle with savings, I don't know how many of us here have had trouble with savings? Indicate with a show of hands. So you save today, tomorrow something happens and you cannot save. Is there anybody here who has experienced that? You are able to save today, right? But tomorrow something happens and you are unable to save. Or maybe you saved today, tomorrow you have collected the money back. There's nobody. Everybody here is very good with saving. Okay, but if you get to come across this information and you are having challenges with saving, I want to tell you one of the troubles why you have those challenges is because you are not realistic in your saving target. This is one of the reasons is because you don't have the required data to enable you reconcile the exact amount that you can safely, consistently save. So some people are entry-level staffs, but because you have just heard on this call that if I save consistently, say I am 10 years old today, I will become Warren Buffett in 10 years time, or I will become Warren Buffett when I am 70 years old. You now decide today, right, to begin to save 50% of your earnings when you can barely afford to live on 90%. You will always go back to pick the money you kept there. So if you are on this call and you are an entry level employee, one of the best things to do as you get on this journey of financial independence is to build up your emergency savings. Building up your emergency savings it will take us back to the third topic I touched on when we were talking about budgeting. You need to have data on how much you are spending. When you are putting together and building up your emergency savings, it means that you are going to put together minimum 3 months worth of your living expenses, such that in the case of or in the event of any eventualities, you can live off that money while you are looking for something else to augment your income. You would comfortably, without having to worry about your next meal or a roof over your head, you build an emergency savings, number one. For those of us that are entry level, you are just coming into the savings and financial freedom movement, first and foremost, build an emergency fund. while you are after building an emergency fund, invest in personal development, save for personal development, take courses that would help you earn more. And then if you have crossed that survival level and you are earning a bit more, instead of splurging on ice cream dates and all of those other extra things, you can then begin to increase the amount that you save. And instead of just leaving your money in high yield savings account like SubaSave, you can then move from saving to investing. Okay, so a recap of what I have said. When you are budgeting, your budget is the roadmap for your money. When you are saving is paying yourself first. How do you do budgeting right? Ensure that you have an aggregate of all of your certain income. Categorize this income. Categorize your income. Then later on your living expenses month on month. With that, you can then assign your money based off of the 50, 30, 20% rule or zero budgeting, depending on which one works for you and on what cadre you are when it comes to earnings and employment. And lastly, to save is not just to save money today. It is to commit to saving consistently. Commit to saving consistently. And if you are new here, you haven't saved before, I want to advise you to quickly go on Google now. If you use an Android phone, download the Suba Capital app, register, create an account, and begin to save today. This is salary week. Some of us have collected salary. Some of us will collect salary next week. Don't finish all of that money without saving some money on Suba Capital. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Ms. Adaku. Thank you for helping us break and understand the concept of budgeting and saving. So just a quick one, right? I want to ask a question personally. So for someone who has an irregular source of income, because one of the things you mentioned is, so let me check my notes. What prompts my question? You said we should identify our income, the one that are coming in consistently, that from there we should create our budget, right? So what of someone who has like an irregular source of income? How do you advise that person to go around budgeting and saving?
Okay, so when you say the person has an inconsistent source of income, is it that the person doesn't have a job and he gets a job once in a while?
Let's say more like a contract staff, something like that.
Okay, even if the person is a contract staff,
it comes.
Even if that person is a contract staff, right, and you get it once in a while, there has to be some form of income that comes in consistently that you can live off. That person doesn't have to wait for 3 months when they eventually get a gig or when they eventually get some form of jobs. There has to be something that you currently live off on up until when you get another gig. So you plan with that one. Okay. However, when you did you hear what I said?
Yes, I did.
Good. So I said there has to be some amount that is certain to come in on a regular basis. I'm not sure that people wait for 3 months before they can, 3 or 4 or 6 months. You are not certain of when that money will come in. So that one is a bit difficult to plan with. But even when you earn money every 3 months or every 6 months, you then plan with 3 months time frame or 6 months time frame.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're trying to say now.
Good.
Thank you.
So that is it.
Right. Thank you very much. I hope we've all learned, and I believe with the pointers that Ms. Adaku has given us, everybody will go back and review their finances, begin to plan their budget. There's something she mentioned. This is salary week. Some persons have gotten salary. Some will be getting salary next week. It's very important to create a budget. Very important to create a plan. So with that being said, we've come to the end of our webinar for today. I want to encourage us, please follow us across all our social media platforms at Suba Capital, WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Let's ensure to follow us. We drop updates. We also drop blog posts. We drop content that's related to financial literacy as a whole. So with that being said, thank you all for giving us your time, and then we'll see you on the next webinar.